you are crafting with Kim Byers, and today we are going to make cards. So if you have been crafting with me in the past, we have made a lot of cards with the Cricut Joy, with the cute little card mat and all the fun designs in Cricut Design Space. And you know that we are limited or have been limited by what we could create because there wasn't a card mat for the Cricut Maker or the Cricut Explore. Well, those days are over. Now, what we're going to do today is we are going to go from beginning to end through this card mat. We're going to talk about what it does, what it doesn't do, how to make bulk cards, how to make different cards on the same mat, all the ins and outs so that you can get to card making with your larger machine. Now, if you are a Cricut Joy owner, just so you know, I have tons of videos. We talk about the card mat, we talk about decorating envelopes, we make our own card kits. We've done a ton of work with the Cricut Joy, and I'm gonna link all of those videos up above and below so you can pop over and check those out. But today we're going to talk all about the card mat for the Cricut Explore and for the Cricut Maker. We're going to hop over to the craft table. I'm going to show everything to you. We'll dive into Cricut Design Space and we'll do all the things there, and then we're going to pop back over to the craft table and finish out our cards. And if you're new here, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. I have so much planned for the upcoming fall and holiday season. I don't want you guys to miss a thing. So everything that we're going to be using today is down in the description below. If you have any questions, I love for you guys to talk to me in the comments, and let's get crafty. Okay, so here we are on the craft table, and these are the things that we're going to work with today. So this is the new Cricut Card Mat, and so this is for the Maker and for the Explore. So it's really neat, guys. So you can do 4 different cards at one time, or you can do 1 card, or if one, wears out, you can move over and use the other side. So you have a lot of options with this really neat card mat. One thing I do want to point out is it says 13 by 1625. It's okay, so if you see that and you're like, oh, my Cricut only does 12 by 12, it actually will do a 13 by 1625. These machines will cut up to 24 inches, the longer, well, with the Smart you can do even longer than that, but the mat itself, there's a 24-inch mat. So this will fit. Now we will, once we get to it, I'll show you there's a couple of things you'll have to do whenever you're feeding your mat in, but it will fit. So I just wanted to make sure and point that out to you guys. So I also have pens on the table. I have insert card kits, and so there are new card kits, there are new sizes of cards, and we'll talk about that when we get over to Cricut Design Space. But for the most part, what we're going to use today is our machine, our card mat, some pens, and insert card kits. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space. I've gone ahead and pulled in a couple of cards that I wanted to create with you today. So I went in and just did a theme of get better soon, get well soon kind of thing. So it's nice to have cards like this on hand when things come up and you don't have time, to make a card. I like to have some generic get well soon and birthday cards available, but I do love to personalize. So you guys who craft with me know I love to personalize, but today we're going to go the easy route and we're just going to create some for our stockpile. So my goal today is to teach you how to use the mat, how to find cards in Cricut Design Space, and go through that process. But we will do a separate video where I show you guys how to write on the inside of the card. We could even talk about writing on the envelopes and all those kinds of things. Okay, so for today, let me show you how to find cards. So if you go over into images, so you can search in the box at the top, but you're going to get a lot of things that are not cards. So what I like to do is go down into theme and hit cards. And so then it pops up with, 1,981 images. Now, guys, just so you know, I get questions about this a lot. It's different for everyone. I don't quite know why. I've heard things like different parts of the world have different images and that kind of thing. And it could be subscription levels and stuff like that too. So don't let that number worry you. There are tons and tons of cards in Cricut Design Space. And the ones that we're using today, I will put their code or their number down in the description so you can find those exact ones if you would like to. So here's the gist with cards. You can go over into operation type and you can select cut only cards. We're going to do a couple of those today. You can select cards that are cut and draw. So all you have to do is select that, and you can see my count goes way down by like 600, 700 cards. But if you want to just sort of see everything that's out there and available, this is the way you do it. I personally would like for them to categorize them or move them into groupings, or give you an option where you could select by size based on the card kit that you purchased. That's not available yet. I'm hoping that's something that they're working on. But if you do, mouse over, move your cursor over the top of the cards, you can see the name of the card. And when you get down into some of the newer cards that have been designed, it's actually going to tell you the size. So when you see sizes, so you'll see R30, R40, S40. So the R is for rectangle and the S is for square. Okay, so you can resize. I don't like to do it personally, but you can resize a rectangular card. So we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get over to the canvas, but I wanted you to see that you can mouse over them and see if it's a square card. So if you don't have square paper, then you don't want to use that one, right? So then you can go down and just pick any kind of card that you want. And what we do is you'll click on that card and then you'll add it to Canvas. And so once you've added that into Canvas, and this is an R20 card. So if you are looking at your mat, or you are looking for specific size cards, all of these are called R20s. And this larger one here, this is an R30. So I think they're probably going to also redo all the packaging for the card kits and put that scale on the packaging. That would make it so much easier for you guys to find the right card kit. And I was thinking, I did a video, and I'll put this up above, but I did a video about how to create your own card kits, and I did that specifically for the Joy, but the premise is the same. So you can get your own cardstock and make your own card kits for the Maker and for the Explore. And again, I'll put that up above and down below so you guys can hop over and check that out. And maybe we'll even do a new video with some new papers and things showing how to specifically do it for the new sizes of cards. Okay, so now that we have these cards here, a couple of things before you send it to Matt. You don't have to edit the card necessarily, so I'm actually going to take this one off. But when you look at my cards, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 cards that are all cut only. So the color you see there is actually your insert whenever you put that on, onto the card. So then when we look at this card, you can see that there is pen. So if you look over into the the right hand navigation, you're going to see a pen color, and a pen color, and then a basic cut. So if you want to change these pen colors, this is when you do that. So you'll hop up into the operation for the pen and choose different pens. So I will tell you, with a design like this, when it's very tight and small and whimsical and pretty, you don't want to use markers, because the marker is just gonna all bleed together. So you want to stick with a fine point pen. You can go up though and change the colors. You have to be clicking. Did you see what I just did? When I clicked on the whole thing, right? And I went over and tried to do operation, I had a question mark and it won't let me do anything. So just make sure, don't frustrate yourself, go over and make sure you're only selecting one item in your layers panel, and then you can go up and change your pens, change your color. I personally love the gel pens. And I do like the glitter gel pens. I use those a lot too. The markers are great, but I just can't use it on something that small. I love using the markers for people's names and stuff like that. Okay, so now that I'm like, I want a blue card, a yellow card, I want this card in yellow, but with some pink and red. Now, if you send this all to Make It right now, they're all going to be on separate mats, just like it would be if it was not a card mat and it was a regular green mat. So if you want to do them all together at one time, pick whatever paper you want to use, but change all the colors on the canvas to the same color. So let me show you what I mean. So if I right now just went ahead and hit Make It, so you see it shows it on a regular mat as well. So you're going to have to look over into left-hand navigation and choose mat. We're going to choose on card mat. So see how it pops to my card mat. And you can see here that, see the little 30 right there. So that's a rectangular, an R30. But you see how it pops to separate mats. So we can change that one just so you can see. And those two were the same color, so they're on the same mat. So if you want everything to cut at one time, I would say move them to the same color, even though you're cutting on a different color. The caveat to that is you cannot cut two different size cards on the card mat. So for instance, I can't have an R20 here and an R30 down here. You're going to have to just know that it's going to be an R20, like all of those are going to combine to one mat. The other thing is when you see this blank here, that means it's not going to cut or draw anything there. It's just showing you that it's filling it in. So you don't actually have to put cards on these bottom two. You would just have to put it here. And if you wanted to move one around, you would just drag it over and it's going to pop into place. So, and the reason that's important is if you are only making two cards and the sleeve, that clear sleeve that goes on top, and I'll show you that in a moment, you pull it off and it pulls off the top and bottom at the same time. And so then you still have a clear sleeve over here, and so that keeps your tackiness together. So I personally would never cut if I were just cutting two, cut them side by side. I would cut them vertically. Okay, so let's cancel that though and go back. So let's look at our card sizes. So we have 1, 2, 3 that are the same size. All I have to do is change this whale guy over to the same yellow. And if you're curious if you chose the same yellow, you can go into Color Sync and you can see right there. So yes, they're the same yellow. And then if I want to cut these two on the same mat, which would be so much easier, I just have to have whatever cardstock I want on the actual mat. Then I can go up and say, well, I'm just going to move this one to this one. So see, you don't even have to go back and choose color here. You can literally just drag and drop it on the sink. And so now, voila, we have two mats. So now when we select Make It, it's going to pop to a normal mat. All you have to do is go on Card Mat. So now there we are. So we have two R30 cards. And then if we look at the other one and we move that to the card mat, so now we can see we have 1, 2, 3 R20 cards. I hope that makes sense. It's actually really simple. I just don't want you guys to get confused, wondering why everything, is not going to the right mat. Now, another thing I want to point out, you can change the size of these cards, but you cannot do it once it's on the card mat. So you're not going to be able to change it to an R20 to an R30 here. Now you're saying, well, Kim, I'm looking at this and it's a drop down. I can do that, right? I can hit that R30. You can. When you do that, do you notice it recenters your art? Fantastic. But you are not getting a larger image. So see this, now your card kind of looks weird, right? Because you have all this extra space at the top and the bottom. So yes, you did make the card itself bigger, but you didn't make your design any bigger. And you can't do that here. So you'd have to cancel and go back over to the mat or the canvas and do it there. Okay, so I'm going to move these back to R20 because that's the paper I have and that's the design size I want. And now we are ready to hit continue. I already have my card kit listed here. So I'm going to go into Browse All Materials and then I'm going to type card. And so it's going to pop up all of these different choices. And so I'm looking for insert card. So you see this right here. So you can, click the little star and make it a favorite. And then we just hit done. Okay, so now that we get to this view, it's our base materials are set to the insert card, and then you see this icon. This is telling us to move our star wheels. Now, I will show you how to do that when we get back over to the craft table. The second thing is we are cutting these 3 cards, and one has a pin option with the little butterflies. So it's telling me to load the Very Berry pin first, and then it tells me my candy corn pen will be second. So when you are using pins, they always write before you cut. So you're always going to do your pins before you do your cut. So we'll do the Very Berry, the candy corn, and then we'll move over to the fine point, and then it will cut not only the card that we drew on, but the top 2 cards as well. Okay, so now we can hop back over to the craft table and make some cards. Okay, so here we are back on the craft table, and these are the card kits that I chose for the first set of cards. So this is for the bee card, this is what I'm using for my whale card, and then this is what I'm going to use for the drawn butterfly card. So I actually did choose to use the candy corn pen, but I changed the pink over to this really bright magenta. I just thought that would be beautiful against that yellow. Okay, so these are the things that we're going to use for this first one. So let's go ahead and move everything out of the way, the inserts and things, and I will show you how to put the card onto the card mat. So the first thing that we're going to do is take off the protective layer. And you really don't have a choice but to take it off the whole way down. So that's what I was telling you before when we were in Cricut Design Space. Like if you're going to do 2 cards, do them vertically here instead of doing them horizontally, because that way you don't have to take off this side of the card mat. So we're just gonna take that and set that to the side. So if you've used a Cricut Joy mat before, you know this, but if you've not, this is tacky, okay? So this is our card that we're going to be using for the bee. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and take our card and we want to open it up, and then we want to slide one side inside of the mat, and then this is going to be on top. And so this will actually be held in place by the tackiness of the mat. So this is a spatula, and it comes with the normal kits when you first get your machine, and some machines come with them, but this is just a spatula tool. And so what you want to do is if you pick up your mat, you can see that it separates a little bit. You can get your spatula between there, and then you just want to open up that card. You want to get it in between those two, and then we're going to move it all the way over to the edge. Now you want to make sure that it is all the way over and all the way up. So it should line up perfectly with the line here on the mat. And if you're wondering what size card you have, this down here is going to tell you a 10, 20, 30, and 40. So once you have it in place, what you want to do is you start at the edge and push it over like this, okay? So don't just like, do it any direction. I personally would put it in at the edge and then push it like this so that you get a good placement and you don't get anything crooked or anything like that. Okay, so then let's go ahead and do that for the other 2. Okay, so now that all 3 of those are in place, what I would say is just do your best not to touch the tacky area if you don't have to, because all the residue on your fingers and things like that will kind of take off the stickiness of your mat. Okay, so now we are ready to go ahead and put this into the machine. One thing I want to point out is that there is a circular hole, or actually an oval hole, right here in the top of the card mat. So other mats, you can put them in top or bottom, it doesn't matter. With the card mat, you have to insert it into your machine with the little oval at the top. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to put our mat in our machine, and I strongly suggest that you push evenly up on both sides. But before you wheel it in, you must move these star wheels out of the way. If you don't, they are going to give ridges to your cards, and it's going to mess things up and it's going to be upsetting. I have done this not with cards but with another project some time ago, and those star wheels are fantastic for feeding things through, but not when you have very thick materials. And so the cards aren't that thick, but the mat is thicker, and so you want to move these star wheels to the center groove right here. So what we're going to do is they just move so super simple. You're just going to move those over, and if your motor is in the way, they say you can just gently move it out of the way, although I don't love doing that. So I am going to I guess I'm gonna have to. They say it's okay. They say it's okay to do, guys. Okay, so then we'll move it to the center. Okay, just lined up right there with those little ovals. So we know it's gonna run right through the center edge and not get onto our card. Okay, and so now we are ready to hit the load button. So again, even pressure all the way up. Okay, so now it's checked our material and we're ready to start with our first card. Now remember what I told you in Cricut Design Space. So when you are cutting cards, when you're cutting or writing on anything, the pen always comes first, always. So what we want to do is, because this is an Explore 3, we're going to put the pen here. And so remember in Cricut Design Space, it's going to tell you which pen to use first. So we are going to use magenta first. Okay, so we take our pen We put it in the A-clamp, wait till you hear it clicks and the little arrow goes in, and then close it up. We're ready to go. The second pin is the candy corn pin, so we just pop that one out. Put in our candy corn pin, light click, and there we go. I'm always so impressed by how beautifully this machine draws. Once the machine is done drawing, it goes right into cutting. Okay, so now I've unloaded my mat, and the next thing that we want to do is we want to get our cards off of the card mat. And the cool thing about this being tacky is that sometimes it sort of self-weeds whenever you start taking the card off. The little interior elements come off with it, and then we can just clean off the mat. So let's just see. So I'm going to take my spatula tool and get up under an edge. And just be gentle. And then once you've got a little bit of a lip there, you can start to gently pull it up with your hands. See that? So it almost self-weeded. Like, I'm not even sure. There's like a couple tiny little pieces left there, but for the most part, everything came right off. Okay, and if there's any little elements left, you can use your weeding tool and get those out. But I want to show you real quick. So this was the B one, so it had this really cool mustard color. I'm just going to set it in there just so you can see how dramatically different it makes that look. Isn't that sweet? And so then when you pop it in, it's going to show more of that mustard color. So see, it'll show more of that mustard color on each of the corners. Okay, so let's go ahead and weed out the rest of these cards and pop our next set in, and then we'll do the reveal of all the cards at one time. Okay, and so now between card making, we're going to use our little scraping tool and clean off our mat. Okay, and so for my next two cards, what I want to do is I want to put the cover back on this side, and I'm just going to cut them on the left side. So we want to take that cover and we just want to place it back down, and you should place down the smooth side. There we go. So that's in place. And now I have two sets that I want to make for these larger cards. And I actually cut this out because, okay, I just love the glitter. I thought it was so, so cute. So this is my insert, and then this is, the pink is my insert for the blue card. So, okay, so we'll put the blue card on top, just like before. If you need this spatula, you can use it to sort of lift up the edge. Place your card in all the way over. And so you see it's going to hit on the 30 mark. This is an R30. So then we want to push from the side, and then we're going to put one on this bottom mat and kind of pick up the card mat if it's not wanting to let you get right underneath it. Hold it up. Get our card in, push it all the way over, making sure that your line here all the way over, all the way up, and press from the center and over. Okay, and so now we're ready to put this into the machine. Okay, and so here are our cards. So be better soon, the pretty little drawn card, get well soon, and then I put a little glitter. This one's very basic, but when you add a little glitter to it, it makes it really fun. And this has to be my favorite. This one is generic enough for anyone. I love the little Band-Aids, but I was gonna show you, it's super simple to put your inserts in. So you just want to grab it in a corner. I tend to do the first corner on the front, and then I'll flip it over once I have, you know, that placement kind of going, and pop in all the corners on the back. And of course, the more intricate corners take a little bit more time, but how easy is that, guys? So, so cute. Okay, so I hope you guys thought that was fun. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you will make some beautiful cards. If you have any questions about what we went over today, make sure that you hop down in the comments and leave those for me. I have some other videos on the card mat that I want to make, and so your questions always helps me to, you know, frame that up and make sure that I'm doing all the things to help you craft more confidently. Okay guys, I'll see you next time.